Welcome to this week's edition of Leadership Actually. It's not Love Actually, it's Leadership Actually.
Hello.
Hello. And this week I am absolutely delighted to welcome a brilliant guy called Chris Brindley. He is a phenomenon, and Chris has had the privilege to mentor me. He has also done a few other things in his career. He has been the MD of Metrobank. He has been the chair of the Rugby League World Cup and done a phenomenal job with men's teams, ladies teams and disabled athletes teams, all competing in the event at the same time, which I think is just incredible. And he's done a whole range of other stuff, and I'll let Chris talk about some of those things as we go through, because honestly the list is too endless. He's just a top bloke.
Oh, fantastic, Chris. Well, really, really great to meet you.
Great to meet you.
He's told me loads about you, as well as all those great accolades. So coming from a world of finance, and I love rugby too, so that's all good, good. Lots to talk about there. But I guess Lee also said, you know, in your current role as well, is kind of you help organisations, leaders, execs in particular, kind of cut through that noise, understanding really what's going on in organisations and culture stuff. And that's a passion, a subject for me as well. So really looking forward to diving into
Great to be here. Thanks for the invite.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. But before we do, what we like to do is really talk about when we might have got it wrong. Kind of part of our podcast is the messy moments, and then we like to bring in an expert such as yourself who tells us really, how we might put some of those things right. So Lee, culture's a big challenge out there. Have you had any moments where it didn't go completely right for you? Or?
Yeah, I was we talked on one of the previous episodes that I was part of an organisation for a long time, so 18 years, so you feel like you know the fabric of the organisation. The truth is, and I'm sure Chris will lean into this, is it changes along the way. So, and you always hear people talk about, it's not like the old days, when we were in the smaller building, or we had a certain boss or structure or corporate identity. And I think where I certainly got it wrong is I was trying to take the old world and think of that as the best thing, certainly early on in my career, because those were the things that people cherished, without recognising actually what's the value to the organisation, but what do people take with them. I think as a leader as well, I got stuff wrong in terms of telling people once and expecting it to happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
I assumed that they were engaged in the process and wanted change, because I'm a quite positive guy. I've said that in the past, and I was like, I can see the shiny bright lights, and other people like the biggest skeptics in the world going, we've been here before. Like, when have you heard that? Where people go, it's another round of. But then one thing that really did strike me, so I then became, and I was really curious around how people, human beings, took change on board in terms of lots of OD change, so organisational development, design, change. So I chaired something called National One Voice, which I represented 4,500 people at one particular point, and then was liaising with the exec board around changes, what people were saying, how we could go through consultation processes, that sort of stuff. And I, almost ashamed to say now, right, I definitely was in that moment where I'd not been put at risk of redundancy, and I was advising people and working with those groups. It was only when I was put at risk myself that the penny dropped, and that I really got. I almost look back at the previous 3 or 4 years and went, I've done it with great intent, but my empathy to those people wasn't as sharp as it could have been. And that's when it really dawned on me to live it and breathe it and be in the shoes.
Yeah.
And if I wasn't in the shoes, to at least listen at a different level. Listen to what's not being said versus what is being said.
Yeah, absolutely. Lots and lots in there, Chris.
No, look, when we get into it, I'd love to talk about the beach ball, because I think what you've just talked about there is absolutely the beach ball concept, and I think it really helps leaders if they understand the beach ball concept and how it could apply in their business. And you talked about the World Cup earlier, but one slight correction, it wasn't disabled, it was a wheelchair World Cup. And the reason we wanted a wheelchair World Cup, because we wanted anybody to be able to play, we wanted it to be really inclusive. So we had able-bodied people playing in the wheelchair team because they couldn't manoeuvre the wheelchair.
Wow.
And the reason being, there was a story of two brothers, and one brother lost his legs in a terrible medical incident, and his younger brother wanted to play sport with him, and they went round and said, what's the sport we can play? And true disability sport only allows people with disability to play, and you have to be categorised. So wheelchair rugby league is wheelchair rugby league, and anybody can play. And you know, when England played Wales in the semi-final of the World Cup, Wales had 3 women playing. Yeah. Australia had a father and son playing. So when we talk about inclusivity, we were so proud. We delivered the biggest, the best, the most inclusive World Cup ever. Yeah. And again, part of that is how do you think differently before you act. So we knew there was lots of disability. There is wheelchair rugby, but that's different from wheelchair rugby league. Yeah. Ours is an inclusive sport. So, but let's get back to the beach ball over there, because I think it's a great story. And the reason I use the World Cup is we had an observer event where you invite anybody else who's got global tournaments and tournaments coming up to come and listen to how we've done what we've done. Yeah. And I always remember during COVID we had to postpone the World Cup for 12 months. Yes. And somebody said, how did you think? And I said, well, we walked into a meeting with the beach ball because we wanted people to understand the concept. And then the observer review, our chair of risk and audit committee said, this is one of the things that really helped us as a team. And he brought in this bloody huge beach ball. Everybody just went, like, what's going on? And since then, I've been known to take beach balls into meetings because I want people to understand the concepts, and the visualisation of the beach ball really helps. But I think it's a really great story, that Lee, and I don't think you're alone in that. Which is, I'm thinking, how are they? But actually, when it happens to me, I realise I didn't really think enough about what I was doing to them. Yeah. So therefore, how can I learn from that?
Yeah, I love that, like that perspective. The beach ball is a really good analogy. I'll be pinching that one, definitely. I'll give you credit for it.
No, you don't have to. Look, I think as long as we go out there and make a difference, whoever gets the credit is irrelevant.
It's it, absolutely. Sharing the message, isn't it?
It's all about the message.
Yeah, and I guess from my point of view, I've loved working with people, and I've loved being a leader, but and I've seen the really good. So I've seen a CEO that used to walk the floor every single week, and talk to people and try and connect on that level. And on Christmas Eve, they come around with a really big box of chocolates, to every single person. That was in head office. There was other areas, and so I've seen some really good. I've seen the bad, where we've told people what to do and think it's going to shift and change, but we haven't role modelled that at the top. Yeah. And I've seen the really toxic as well, where it's just broken, but the organisation and the culture's broken, and all the different things that lead on that. And I think as an individual, as a leader, I remember a time where I was really ambitious in my role, and I wanted to show that I was doing the right thing. So I would work every hour God sends. So I'd be the first in the office. I'd be the last at home at night. I know all the cleaners knew me. In fact, they bought me a leaving present when I went because they knew me that well. And I was perfectionism. We all had to deliver. We were out doing impression, although I really cared about the people. I was living this life, and one day I came into work and they pulled me into an office, my team that is, and they sat me down and said, Lise, we can't live up to your standards. You're in first and last. We can't do that, and we can't deliver to those expectations. And I was like, I don't expect you to do that. But they went, your behaviour is making us feel like we've got to do that, and we just can't keep up. And it was a massive lesson. I was like quite dumbfounded that happened, but it did change me. At first I just do it quietly, but then I really realised that the impact that it was having on me as well. So
it's fascinating, that, Lisa. It's a great story, because I always say that if the leader goes off too fast and too far where your team can't see you, how can they possibly follow you?
Yeah.
So always making sure that you're in sight of your team and you're understanding of what the team's capable of.
Yeah.
And you might be running an easy lap, they might be running the fastest lap. If you then pick up the pace and run too fast, they just give up because they go, can't be like that. So I always talk about really understanding your team's capabilities, and of course you grow them, but sometimes if you try and grow them too fast, they break.
Yeah, such a real lesson.
So it's just, for me, it's always, I've met a couple of leaders who I've said, just have a look behind you and say, gosh, all these people are ill and scattered. You went, that's terrible, who's done that? I mean, you have.
Yeah.
But I didn't mean to, no, but you did.
Yeah.
You did it because you didn't quite understand the capability of your people. And perhaps sometimes your personal life allows you to work 24/7. Maybe these people have got young families or ageing parents, and they might have hobbies and interests which enable them to have quality recovery time as a result of that. They come into the workplace different.
Yeah.
So again, I think that's why I love podcasts like this, because it just helps get the message out, helps people to reflect. They might not change, but that's their choice, their motivation.
Yeah.
But I think if we are a stimulus or create an environment where people get just listening, it's an interesting point. I wonder how I can reflect that. Maybe they go and talk to a couple of people close to them, either professionally or personally, and somebody says, well, can I give you some feedback?
Yeah,
and you go, right. Because feedback's a gift, right? And the one thing I love about feedback is it's free. And if I could, almost encourage anybody watching, listening, just to be obsessive about asking and receiving feedback.
Yes.
Because it makes you better at who you are and what you do. Without it, you carry on doing the same old thing.
Yeah.
Definition of insanity, right? Doing the same old thing, hoping for better results. And I just where we are today doing the recording. There's some wonderful books out there, and one of them's Legacy by James Kerr. And the New Zealand All Blacks at their best are at the best when they're receiving and giving each other feedback.
Yeah.
And they do it because they care. They care about the teammates, care about the team, care about the nation who they're representing, they care about the shirt that has been handed to them and it's going to be handed to somebody else, so you should always leave the shirt in a better place than when you received it, type stuff. So look, leadership's fascinating. We could spend all day.
There's so many questions, and that's where I was at actually. So my husband worked away, I didn't have a family, and I never thought about any of those things.
Yeah.
So the first thing you said was you've got to connect more with your team.
Yeah.
How do you do that as a leader, and as you go further up that scale, how do you keep connected with those team members and the people around you?
I think you've got to be obsessed as a leader about understanding your people, and I think it's about being forensic, about understanding everything in their life, not just at work. Really understanding their life, understanding their motivations, because we are motivated by different things. I had a pretty tough upbringing, and the reason I joined NatWest printing checkbooks was because I wanted security. Never had security in my life. I get to the age of 50 and I'm managing director at Metrobank, which is a job that I absolutely adored. And I said to Elaine, came over and I said, I'm thinking of leaving. She went, why'd you do that? It's the best job you've ever had. You love it. You get on really well with everybody. I said, well, motivations changed from security. My children are older, they've moved away. My passion was always sport, because sport's been very kind to me in terms of helping me shape my thinking and leadership qualities and high performance. I said, well, I'll go work in sport, because my motivation changed.
Yeah.
And motivation is so fluid, it can change from day to day. My brother's really ill, sadly he's got a terminal illness. Well, my motivation changed the day he got the diagnosis, because I just cancelled out a day a week out of my diary and went, we're just going to create some memories.
Yeah.
So I forensically profile my team, and I do it in a fun way. We have lots of quizzes and questionnaires, right, at every team meeting. What's your favourite meal? Italian, Chinese. Okay. What's your favourite drink? Champagne, sort of spritzer, or all of this, Aperol spritz. Right, okay, I'll get that. Right, what are the three things that really motivate you? What are the three things that What are the three things that really piss you off? that, and that. What are the three things that piss you off? When I know what pisses people off, guess what? I make sure I don't piss them off.
Yeah, good point.
And it's just understanding the three things, and then I tell them what pisses me off, and I say, can we have a deal? You don't do what pisses you off. Funny enough, they go, that's cool. That's fine. So and it is about really understanding. So I always remember in a previous role going on video saying, if you are the parent of a primary school child, you never have to ask anybody for permission to go to sports day or nativity play. Yeah. So nobody can say yes or no. You go in. What I want the team to do and the leader to do in that branch or that business is to facilitate the way where every parent can go to a sports day. Primary school kids look for a few faces on sports day, right?
They do.
And when they're there, there's a smile, and when they're not, there's a disappointment. And it's not hard to work out, is it, Lisa?
No.
I reckon sports days are usually in June and July. I'm going to make a really bold prediction for this year. I think nativity plays are going to be in December.
No way. How do you know?
Have you done the lottery?
but it's about understanding what matters most. So, and then, you know, I said, look, some of you might not be parents or carers, but that's okay. What are your hobbies and interests that you might need a couple of hours to get off and do? Or is there a flight that you don't want to take a full day off, but you could just do a getting out? Because it's about looking after each other.
Yeah.
And for me, leadership is about really working out. Another role, I always ask about children's exam results.
Wow.
16, 18. And if I know you've got a 16-year-old or an 18-year-old, guess what? I give you the day off on results day. Because your job isn't to look after me that day.
No.
Your job is to either celebrate with your kids or you've got a big coaching session. Right?
Totally.
Right?
I still get this
session.
out.
So imagine, just say, don't have the distraction of work, just take the day off. All I have to do is just let me know how they've done and let me know if I can help. And that costs nothing. And if people want to know a little bit more about the model, and I'm a great believer in having tools in the kit bag.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated by Hertzberg's theory of motivation.
Yeah.
And he talks about above the line and below the line. And what's interesting for leaders is the most impactful things cost little or nothing.
Absolutely.
Oh, and by the way, the leader gets to be able to do it because it doesn't cost a lot and it's not hard. Asking people, how old are your kids? Right, when do you live an anniversary? Right, stuff like that. It's about making the effort to note it. It's about having a good system in place to recall it, and then letting people know that you know and that you care.
I think what I'm hearing you talk about there, as I would call it as a team coach, and I did that stuff and still do to this day, is human-centered leadership.
Yeah.
Like caring about people enough to get the best out of them.
Yeah.
You know, not just on a one-off every now and again, but high performance consistently, so that they can show up. And not like, I love the fact you were saying earlier about avoiding burnout, so they can continue. So if you were being even, you know, the skeptic in the room from a exec perspective, actually the ROI on that is enormous, right? So if you look after people, my simple thing is, well, people would want to work for you, engage with you, and do their very best. It's really simple.
Not difficult, is it?
No.
If common sense was common practice, right? But it's fascinating to talk about burnout there. I have the privilege to work in football, academy level, and I work with the elite academy directors. I've had the privilege to work with people who've won Olympic medals, and what's fascinating is that they have the same model. It's a really simple model, and it starts with warm up. The very best warm up.
Okay, good.
Stage 2 is peak performance, and they know what they've got to do.
Yeah.
But the reason they know what they've got to do is because they spent the warm up doing a physical and a mental warm up. Then they go to that peak performance, then they warm down after it. Which is fascinating, and they warm down physically and mentally, so they review the performance, thinking, how did I do? What went really well? Let's cement that in. What could I have done better? And when's the opportunity for me to do it again? And then they have something called QRT, called quality recovery time.
Oh, okay.
And what you just said, Lee, is so important. Is about the reason athletes have the warm down and the QRT is because they know that performance is continual. And it goes in cycles. So therefore, if you're a professional footballer, you've got to play 50 games a season. You don't want to be out. You don't want to miss 40 of those because you've not warmed up. Right? You've got to peak performance without warming up. You've injured yourself, or you've not warmed down, or you've not had quality recovery time. And quality recovery time often is just doing something completely different to your day job, which is why I'm a big fan of always finding out what people's hobbies and interests are, and giving you time to go and make sure that you're like, actually go do some archery, right? If you need to finish at 4, not 5, that's fine, just go. Right? Let your teammates know in case there's anything they need to do. So it's fascinating that model. And then I looked at that model and went, wouldn't it be great if meetings were structured in the same way.
Wow, that wouldn't it?
Wouldn't it be great, actually, as part of the warm-up, if every business actually thought, what's my warm-up for a world-class meeting? Well, it'd be an idea if you sent the agenda out, wouldn't it?
Nice, yeah, that's a good.
And do you think we should tell people who's coming? Mm-hmm. So I can think, as an attendee, are they in favour? Are they against? Are they neutral? What evidence might I need to provide? How do they think? How do they talk? Straight away I'm going, right, I'm warming up now, because when I get in the meeting I've got to be ready. What are the 3 questions I want to ask?
Yeah.
What people in my team do I need to ask them? Say, I'm going to a meeting representing you, and that's the topic. What are your thoughts? So all of that's in the warm-up. And then peak performance is hilarious. Have you ever sat in a meeting where you know that somebody's objective was to survive the meeting without speaking?
So many times.
Right. But then they walk out the meeting and go, I can't believe you made that decision. I go, whoa. You wouldn't be in. If you'd done your warm-up, like, what questions do I want answering? How can I influence the outcome of the meeting? And then peak performance is doing your action points as part of the meeting that you've got to get out to other people. Because what I observe, if people have 4 or 5 meetings a day and there's 3 or 4 action points for other people to do, then they wait till the kids have gone to bed or they've had the tea, and then they start sending messages around the world at 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. Yeah. People then start logging on at 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. And this is because people say stuff like, I know I've sent this email at midnight, I'm not expecting you to answer. Here's a clue, don't send it. Right? Right, because the modern tools of technology allows you to say, send it on that day at that time, or put it in drafts. Yeah. But they I don't expect you to answer it. In other words, I've got it off my desk, it's your problem.
It's your problem now.
Right. And then quality recovery time, I'd never have back-to-back meetings. I think everybody should have a gap between meetings so they can refuel, rehydrate, go to the bathroom. You know, if you want to vape and you do that sort of stuff, do that. But how can you warm up for a meeting if the meeting starts at the same time as your last one's finished? And online makes that even worse. Because you think, well, I don't need to walk anywhere. So it's fascinating, that model of warm-up, peak performance, warm-down, quality recovery time.
Really like that.
See in my mind, Chris, you know, we said we wouldn't do models, right? But I think they are important. I've got a 5P model, right, that I kind of created when I was doing my Fitter for 40 campaign.
Yeah.
So I lost 4 stone, 4 pounds when I was 39 to be round longer as a dad and as a husband. Yeah. They were my primary goals. You will know about this because we've talked about it. But the 5P model mirrors what you've just said, actually, I think, which was purpose.
Yeah.
Why am I doing whatever I'm doing? So back to your agenda point almost. Plan.
Yeah.
What is it? What's the things that I'm going to focus on? Have the questions in your mind, like you were saying. Then it's prepare.
Yeah.
So is there any resources that I need? Is there any side conversations I need to have? Do I need to influence somebody? Are there any barriers I need to overcome? Then perform. So do whatever it is that you're doing. It could be an event, it could be a meeting. And then pursue. And what I mean by pursue is, it could be anything, right? It could be your actions. It could be to rest.
Yeah.
It could be to go, well, it didn't go as planned. I now need to just then take a moment, you know, and I need to take that learning that I need to do something differently. And then it's cyclical, right? Yeah. Because you said before, performance is cyclical. So you go, well, we need to start again. So when we then go back to purpose, like you said already, the purpose might change. So am I really clued in on that? And that just works for me. Like, I do it from a motivational point, more in my own goal setting for losing weight or activities and stuff. But because I was like running around Media City and I came across it one day in my mind, I was like, oh, that's really, that works. Yours is probably far more articulate, but I can remember 5 Ps. So that's what I use. And I think if you can, anyone's got a model that they use themselves, like, it doesn't have to be from somebody else. Like, you create your own version that you can relate or create with a team. And then where I've seen it really, teams do this, don't they? So, you know, I've seen it with exec teams where they'll come up and create ways of working and they have a great time doing it, and then they don't carry it on and 3 weeks later, when you said, we'll send the agenda out. 3 weeks later, they don't send their agenda out. It's like,
but again, when I work with anybody who I would regard as elite performer, whether that's in business support, one of the things that I've noticed is they are incredibly consistent.
Yeah.
Consistent in their inputs, consistent in executing the process, and spookily enough, they get really good results. And I spent this weekend watching the Open Golf, and I always have a conversation about amateur golfers and professional golfers. Professional golfers have just got this lovely rhythm. They are consistently good. They've got great personal qualities. They've got high levels of resilience. They've mastered the technical skills, usually because they've had a coach, by the way.
Yes. Yeah.
You speak to professional golf, right? And I see lots of amateur golfers, never had a lesson in their life. Right? They'll dress like Rory McIlroy or Scotty Scheffler. They'll buy the same clubs as them, and then you go, well, why didn't it work?
All the no idea.
Have you been watching me this weekend? Because I both watched the Open and played amateur golf, and had an absolute mental wobble on Sunday afternoon Sunday morning because of my putting.
and I do talk about technical skills plus personal qualities multiplied by habit. And habit is correct and frequent practice. So the best of the best of the best do it correctly and do it frequently, and are able to do it when needed. They think correctly under pressure, so they anticipate the pressure situations. And again, in business, it's not hard, right? So we sort of know there are peak times for our businesses, right? When the budget was announced and the Chancellor made a decision economically about national insurance, everybody had 6 months to think, right, what does this mean for me?
Yeah.
And therefore, it's correct and frequent practice, because in the next budget, whichever party's in power, they'll always make a decision that will impact business.
Yeah.
So, but the amount of business people who sometimes don't watch the budget, don't read the papers after the budget, and don't have a team meeting minutes after it's all understood going, how does this affect us? And it's world order change, and the reason what you're used to do in business doesn't work today and won't work tomorrow is because the world is constantly changing. So you've got no choice but to change.
Yeah.
And I had a brilliant mentor who gave me a phrase. He said, when the pace of change outside is moving faster than the pace of change inside, disaster is imminent.
We're in that stage.
So you should always, as a business, be looking into the future going, what does the future hold for us? And I have a slide when I present called Our Dear Departed Friends. And I ask people just to bow their head for a moment and just pay respects to people that have left us. And then I flip up the logo of Blockbuster, Woolworths,
I felt awful.
Kodak.
Laughing then. Yeah.
But these were the greatest businesses in their industry.
They were.
But the world was moving faster than they were, and they chose not to change. As a result of that, disaster was imminent. So Blockbuster had 16,000 outlets and played a massive part in my life, by the way. I used to take my 2 kids on a Saturday night to Blockbuster. They still, and they're bloody old now, but they still talk about, God, what movie we're going to get, and they go, oh, can we get Ben Jerry's ice cream, can we get some Maltesers? Right, it was just that. And Netflix came along and wanted to do a deal with them. They went, no, we've got Blockbuster, we've got 16,000 sites, nobody will ever pay for subscription TV. Well, there's only 450 million people globally paying 15 quid a month for Netflix, and you got Disney Channel, and then you got Amazon Prime, and you look at that, and Woolworths did not want to move out of town when big retailers realised that time was a commodity for people. So actually, going into town, getting through the roadblocks, finding somewhere to park, paying for parking, going from shop to shop to shop, whereas you can go to Asda or a major supermarket now, it's out of town, it's 3 hours free parking, and by the way, I can get anything I want in there. I can go to the dentist in there for one, I can get my dry clean and get my keys cut, I can have anything. And again, businesses have to keep saying, what is the future going to look like, and how relevant is our business going to be? And often the people who know it best, and it's not the CEO and the strategist, it's the person who talks to the customer. Or why not try talking to a few customers? What is it you want from us? What is it you don't want? And I'm always fascinated, because whenever I meet a chief exec of a bank or an insurance company or a utility company, I always ask them one question, same question every time. Can you show me one letter, just one, that you've received from a customer saying, I'm really bored with people answering the phone. I'd like to install an automated voice system that keeps me waiting for 45 minutes while saying the message, your call is really important to us. We're experiencing an unusually high volume of calls at the moment. And the answer is, no you're not. You're lying. You just don't want to employ the people to answer the phones.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you look at their website and says, we put the customer at the heart of everything we do. No, you don't.
Actions speak louder than words, don't they?
Well, it's incongruence, isn't it, right? I would respect those companies more if they turned around and said, the reason we've got automated voice response is because if we had to absorb the cost of having human beings answering every phone, your product or service would be that price. You know what I might say? I'll pay that price. Answer the phone.
Yeah, absolutely. We're not giving people choices, are we?
And I'm brilliant. You know, I don't get angry with people. I just don't spend my money with them. And I'll spend my money with people who give me great service. And again, you know, businesses look at the cost of everything, not the value.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they don't ask always the right people the right questions.
Yeah.
And as a result of that,
absolutely.
It comes too late.
I tell you what though, we said we'd talk about the beach ball.
Yeah. Okay.
We've got to get back to the beach ball because there's been people watching this going, the beach ball, we didn't plan this as the hook, right? But
So imagine, right, let's go back to our childhood. We'd probably on a beach with somebody, siblings or parents or friends or family or whatever, and you went to the local newsagents or the store on the beachfront and you bought a beach ball that was half red and half white. And you blow it out.
I'm there.
Right? Half red, half white. What I've experienced is people have different views, different opinions, and often they come from childhood. It might be the school we went to, it might be the home that we were brought up in, it might be the newspaper we read.
Yeah.
You know, if you read the Daily Mail today and the Daily Mirror today, you'd think we're on a different planet, never mind in the same UK. So what happens is, often people have a view. So let's imagine, Lisa, you're stood behind the red bit.
Okay. Yeah.
You've got a view on an issue. And Lee, you have a different view. So you're stood behind the white bit. So all you can see is red. All you can see is white. So then I'll walk up and go, hi Lisa, what colour's your beach ball? You've got red. And they'll go, no. It's white. You'll go, what? It's red. They'll go, I'm telling you, it's white. And often that escalates almost into personal abuse. Right, you must be blind, what hang on, right? Or you dig heels in, right? And then you start playing.
Getting others involved.
And I sit there and I stop for a minute. I tell you what, both of you, can we just go for a walk round the whole of the beach ball just to check our assumptions? Because if you walk around the whole of the beach ball, you know what you realise? It's red and white.
Yeah.
And often people believe what they see, but then again, some people look for things that reinforces their belief system. They read a particular newspaper or a particular news channel, and as a result of that, they make big assumptions. So I'm really passionate about where you've got a situation that's got a level of complexity and sensitivity.
Yeah.
Can we just take the opportunity to listen to somebody else's viewpoint, even if it might be different from yours? Because by walking around the beach ball, what we can do is, why do you say that? And why do you say that? We all might learn. You go, that's interesting, I've not considered that view. So I'm a great believer as a leader that you should ask questions and not make statements.
Yeah.
Because when you question, somebody has to think of an answer. And as a result of that, they'll give you some information and you process that. As a result of that might start to stimulate some different thinking in you. You might start to look for some evidence, or you might start to look for different opinions.
Yeah.
Versus a statement where somebody goes, I don't agree with you, so I'm going to tell you you're wrong. The opposite of right is left. But too many people say the opposite of right is wrong. And it's not wrong.
Yeah.
Right? It's just your view. So I'm a great believer that the beach ball just gets people as a symbol to think, I need to listen even if I don't agree, because I might learn something. And if we can build on that, then actually that's how you get consensus. And we've used the beach ball many times in sensitive and complex situations. And the reason I walk in is everybody knows that this is the one meeting where we just need to listen to each other. We don't need to start over talking and making personal challenges. This is about listen.
Nice.
So that's the beach ball, and I think it's really powerful. So when you were talking, Lee, you said when when other people were at risk, and I was involved in that, but not at risk myself, I thought I knew what they were thinking. Then you went through it yourself, and suddenly what you would do, you projected to their side of the beach ball, because suddenly it impacted you directly. And that's why it's important always to sit there and go, is there an alternative view than mine? And where might that be? So I'm 61, right? I can't think like an 18-year-old, and I don't try. What I do is get a group of 18-year-olds in the room and go, what are you thinking at the moment? And what I do is facilitate the conversation. That's how I understand what 18-year-olds thinking. That's their side of the beach ball, not mine.
Yeah. Back to connection, back to caring, back to all those things that you said up front. But I'm going to represent the messy leader, because there's lots in there, loads to take from today. And they might go, oh, that's all right, Chris, but you know all the answers, you know how to do it. Has it always been like that? Where did you kind of fall over along the way, or how did you come to this kind of passion really for culture and connection? Where did it come from?
Well, I make mistakes every day, right? We do, right? But the thing is about reflecting on performance.
Yeah.
Can I boil the ocean? Absolutely not. And there's a great story called Starfish Story. Take a swig.
These coasters are very amazing.
A great story called Starfish Story. And it's about a management consultant that was going to speak at a conference, and he went across several time zones, and he had jet lag and he couldn't sleep, and it's about 4:30 in the morning, and it's the early signs of dawn. Just had to go for a walk on the beach. So he started to walk down this beach, and there's this lovely sea mist around, and there's starfish, thousands of starfish, and he's stepping over them. And as he's walking, he sees this shadowy figure in the distance. And he goes, oh, somebody else is up early in the morning, wonder what's going on. And he's still avoiding these starfish, and the tide's starting to move out. And as he gets closer, he sees that it's a young boy, probably a teenage boy. And what he's doing is picking up the starfish and throwing them in the sea. So this management consultant gets to him and says, what are you doing? He said, well, these starfish, I've thrown them in the sea because the tide's going out, and if they remain on the sand, they'll dry up and die. So the management consultant said, well, can I just point out that there must be 20,000 starfish on this beach. The tide's going out at 4 inches per 30 seconds, and as a result of that, I just want to tell you can't do anything to save these.
Yeah.
It's a futile act. This teenage boy picked up a starfish, looked this management consultant straight in the eye, threw it in there and said, you said I couldn't make a difference. I just made a difference to that one. Mm-hmm. And therefore, for me, the message to leaders is, you can't do it all. I've never met anyone to do it all. Never anyone's got the clear inbox and nothing on the get done list. Right? We all have it. It's a case of, how do you prioritise?
Yeah.
Right? You've got 24 hours a day, so have you, Lisa, and so have I. So how do we get that bit right? Well, where do we make sure we have some time for us? Where do we make sure we have time for others? Right? Get work done. But let's just remember, ultimately, we were put on this earth, I think, to care about other people.
Yeah.
And leadership for me is achieving your objectives through the efforts of others. And if you want others to help you achieve your objectives, just look after the others. And there's a lovely story in Harvard Business School that's called the service profit chain. Too many leaders focus on profit. Profit's a byproduct for me. It's a byproduct of having great people and taking care of them. Those people then will follow your example and look after your customers brilliantly, and customers will go, that's really nice, I'll do business with them. As a result of that, you'll make some money. Reinvest some of that money back in your people again. Make them better, everything they can do. That hurts with theory of motivation. And as a result of that, they'll go to an even higher level, and customers will notice like, oh, this is just great. And then you reinvest some of that money back into your people. So all the time investing into your people. As a result of that, you go from happy people to committed people to loyal people.
Nice.
And your people that you lead will be loyal. The service that they give will create loyalty within your customer base, and full enough, that's when you make your profit.
Nice.
And how many times have we been in a business where there's some cost pressures and the first thing they slash is the training budget? Should be the last thing.
Yeah, always, yeah. Hear that a lot.
So it is messy. Leadership is messy, but it's also a privilege. And it's a privilege because you get to lead people and you can make a difference to people's lives. And perhaps you might not know it yet because you might be planting a tree you'll never see grow. But you can make a difference. And as that boy said, I made a difference to that one. And if we all make a difference to that one in that moment, and then go and make a difference to another one in another moment, funnily enough, you'll make a big difference.
I love that. I think that's what it's all about really, isn't it? It's like that human part of it, and we're all trying. It's a really hard job out there, you know, leadership at any level isn't an easy job, and people don't wake up and go, I'm going to be a leader tomorrow. Often, you know, it's not the thing that you have in your career advice actually, but it's a real professional job with lots of, you know, responsibilities. And helping people navigate some of that, but to make a difference to people's lives is really purposeful, and you know, it's a great shining star, North Star, to move in the right direction.
Because we don't always sit around the dinner table anymore, but even though we don't sit around and eat together, I still hear this question all the time: how was your day at work today? And as leaders, you get actually to influence that answer. I'm not expecting everything to be right. We all have. But if the leader consistently strives to make an individual's life better by really understanding and connecting with all the things we're talking about today, funnily enough, the answer to that question is, you know what, I've had a tough day, but you know, I'm still really proud to be part of this team. Or I've had a great day, we've achieved that. I've had a great day, I helped them. A great day, we did this. So we always should be looking to just create great moments.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Thank you.
Pleasure. Great to be here.
It's been a privilege, Chris, and you know, I'm reflecting because you know we have worked or you have imparted some of this wisdom on me before, and you know when you were saying about we've got 24 hours in the day, the two things I want to just add in, if you don't mind sharing your 24/7/31 model, I think that'd be really helpful as a bit of as an out, if you like, for people, because it's so powerful. It changed the way I prioritised and action planned actually.
Wow.
24/7/31 was about action. There's a great Latin phrase that's called acta non verba, which is act not speak. And basically I ask people to think, as a result of today, whatever we've done, whether it's a podcast or a book or a session, whatever, what can you take personal responsibility for in the next 24 hours? So if it's a book we recommended, you could order it on Amazon. Right. So I've taken action. Great, you've started to make the flywheel move. The 7 then is usually people either lead a team or are in a team. One or the other usually. As a result of that, what is it from today you want to share with the team that you're in or the team that you lead to think about how can we be better? So you've got 7 days to really think about that. And then usually we either lead a business, own a business, or work for somebody in a business. In the next 31 days, what's the one business idea you think you'd want to share with your CEO? And just let them know. Whether a customer said something, or whether a teammate said something, or whether you thought something, whether you've been talking to mum and dad at home and they've said something, you've read something in the newspaper. What is it that you'd want to share? Because if I was leading a business and everybody in my team once a month sent me an idea, I tell you what, my business would fly.
Yeah.
Because what people talk about often at the Kool-Aid machine is, well, we should be doing that, we should be doing that, and it never ever gets anywhere near the CEO. So 24/7/31 is a course of action. 24 hours, what can you do personally? You permission to yourself. What would you want to share with your team in 7 days, and what would you want to make your business better at in 31 days?
Wow, there's so many takeaways from you, Chris. It's absolutely phenomenal. Do you use any of these outside work? Are any of these important in your own life?
I don't separate work and life. I am Chris in work, Chris in life. The tools work in work, work in life. My daughter's just had surgery, and we were talking about how does she recover. So, spookily enough, she's 24/7/31. Talks about goal setting, talks about warm-up, peak performance, warm down, quality recovery time at the moment. She's having lots of quality recovery time because she's not as active as She would be in the past, but that's cool. And what she's doing is she's making sure she warms up well. So I don't separate the two. I've never quite done this. I'm Chris at work, and I'm Chris. And what you like, you might like. What you might not like, you might not like. But I'm Chris.
I love that. Authentic. Whole life. I like that. Whole life balance.
Whole life.
Fantastic. I guess the last thing for me in terms of curious is, you said that, you know, we have to keep up with the outside world, and it is really fast paced. It seems to be the thing that every leader's talking about, you know, the pace. So if there was one thing that leaders need to be thinking about in terms of their capability or what they do, so that they can keep up in that world, what might that be? What are you kind of exploring as well, you know, to make sure that we're ready for it?
So, two answers, Lisa, if I can. We're in a VUCA world. So VUCA stands for volatile, uncertain, complex and ambiguous. So therefore our thinking has to change. So I then go, what are the trends in the world at the moment? Technology revolution. This is a guy called Jack Black. Jack Black's had a huge influence on me. I don't mean the American actor, by the way. Jack founded a company called Mindstone. He talks about, I use the phrase mental architecture, right? If I was going to build a house, I'd have an architect design it. If I was going to go on a computer, I'd get somebody to program it right. Jack Black taught me mental architecture. Jack talks about these three revolutions in 1996, never left me. So revolution number one is technology revolution. We ain't going back to chalk and slate anytime soon, right? So if we know technology is proliferating at such a rate, then the question I would be asking is, am I using technology? Whether that's advanced technology, is my technology doing my heavy lifting to allow people capacity to build their capability and help serve customers? So technology I find wonderfully supportive. The second one is, I call it the people or consumer revolution. When I grew up as a kid, shops were shut all day Sunday, half day Wednesday and often half day Saturday. Right? I could buy from a shop or a car lock, right?
Yeah, back in the day.
If 20 years ago, if somebody said they were vegan, they'd get strange looks. But now, if I go on a plane or a train, there's a vegan option for me, right? So suddenly, there's a consumer revolution. People are thinking differently. The generations have started to really polarise in terms of thinking and behaviour. So what got you here won't get you there.
Yeah.
So how are your people thinking? And my recommendation to any company is hire in a behavioural psychologist half a day every couple of months, just to tell you and your leadership team how your people might be thinking and how your customers might be thinking and behaving. Well, you can guess. Right, I hope it's not a plan. And then the third revolution is the world order revolution. And the world order changes at a micro level if you get a new neighbour or a new boss. Right? It's never the same. Try it. A little better, a lot better, a little worse, a lot worse. At a macro level, we've seen a new government in this country. We've seen a new president in the United States. And as a result of that, the world order is always changing. We've got conflict in Ukraine, we've got conflict in the Middle East. As a result of that, we have impact. So my message to all the leaders is keep scanning the future based on technology, people, world order.
Nice, very good. Yeah.
Think about that. And then the last recommendation that any leader is connect with a futurist. So in the Northwest, we've got a wonderful guy called Tom Cheesewright. And he's a futurist. And his job is to look into the future of travel, education, consumerism. And he does all that work, and then he sends me a great e-zine. As a result of that, I'm going, need to read a bit more about that. There's a conference on that. There's a podcast on that. So suddenly, futurists, and there's more than one. Tom's great. There's a guy called Steve the Bald Futurist Brown, funny looking Paul. And there's another futurist I follow called Graham Codrington, and they're great because they're at conferences every week. I go once a month, so they're up to date more than me about the future.
Yeah.
And they, it was the futurists that taught me about Zoom. I first logged on Zoom in 2018. Funnily enough, most people discovered it in March 2020.
Yeah,
and again, it's about leadership. Is it about looking into the future? Because that's where you're going to spend your life. That's where you're taking your business. So, should you be embracing the change and embracing the curve, being ahead of the curve? Are you on the curve or are you behind the curve?
Yeah.
And as a leader, it's about thinking of the future, not just counting your money that you made yesterday.
Yeah. And what really struck me, Chris, though, is you don't profess to know all the answers. You know, a lot of that in there was about, you know, seek out the people that can help and understand this stuff. You know, it's kind of, you haven't got to have everything yourself, you know, and you keep yourself very relevant and curious to be able to do that, you know, so your advice is really broad in that sense, and I think that's a really good lesson as well as keeping yourself, you know, ahead.
And an push that, just the thing that hit me hard years ago about that was when I went and watched the conductor of an orchestra in training.
Yeah.
Because I realised that the conductor was the leader. And never once during training or the performance did he jump on stage, throw the violinist out of the way, get the violin and go on this. And non-verbal communication. And it was all in the rehearsal. The way they set out the orchestra was personal responsibility. I'm just going to conduct it. And I realised then that was a really good model for me, for leadership, which was I'll crowdsource the information, use the talent around me, to flourish and grow, and I'll just look into the future and go, am I leading this team in the right direction? Am I making sure that they're going to have jobs and fulfilling lives for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years? That's my job.
It's in there now. My God, I love that. That is in there. Because how many times have we tried to jump on stage and be take over the violin?
There you go. Yeah.
So that is phenomenal. Thank you.
My final thing to you, Chris, is who should be in that seat that you could help get in that seat?
I'm going to say a guy called John Dutton.
Okay.
John Dutton is currently the chief exec of British Cycling. He's on the UK Major Events panel. John is one of the most outstanding leaders I've ever had the privilege of working with.
Wow.
He makes big, bold decisions. He always has real clarity for the future, but the thing that John does better than anybody I've ever met, he really understands social impact and the power that sport has to change people's lives. It's not about the big event. The event will happen. John always asks the question, what difference will it make? And I always remember when I worked with him last, we banned the word legacy. We replaced it with social impact, because often people bang on about legacy and then 10, 15 years after the event nothing ever happens. John was instrumental in making sure that the social impact was achieved before the tournament started. Legacy often talks about what it leaves.
Yeah.
So therefore, if I was to recommend somebody in terms of outstanding leadership, it'd be John Dutton.
Great, I'll let you have your own 24/7/31 to help that happen. Cheers, Chris. That's your challenge.
But I feel like I'm committed.
We'd love to meet you.
Oh no, it's an absolute pleasure and privilege, genuinely, and continue the brilliant work that you're doing. And you know what really strikes me, and always has done, is the humility. You know, this is. And the practical, I've heard it said about yourself being a Pracademic.
Yeah.
You know, making the complex simple. And I think the more that we can do that, the more we help people be leaders, help leaders to lead others. Because you shortcut it in the same way that customers, if you make things simple, they can consume you in a far better way. Yeah. So thank you so much for today.
Pleasure, thank you.
Thank you, Chris. So lovely to meet you. I can't wait to listen again. I'm writing them all down.
Thank you.
Great tips. Thank you.